This is coming at a time where the demand for EVs, especially cheap EVs, is really high. People are really keen to get either a used EV or a cheap EV. So the demand has been going up exponentially for the past few years around the world, as you probably do know, and I've talked about a few times. Of course, you have the BYD Seagull, you've got the BYD Dolphin, as well as a couple of other options if you want to go get a nice, fairly basic, but not so lofty, like not a pretentious, swanky $100,000 EV. So the BYD is already for sale in countries outside of China. Now that is going to be coming in the next 2-3 years, basically all over, like the Dolphin. But I won't spoil that video, which will be one of the next ones. And I think we all probably know that I really love the BYD Seagull. The Dolphin is already over the planet at this point. You can go buy one in, the UK, parts of Europe, Asia, for example, including Australia and New Zealand. So where is Tesla in all of this? This has been a thing lingering since, I think maybe a few years, they're talking about this new cheap EV. Where is it? So what do we know? We know that they will be making the Tesla Model 2, which was never going to be called the Tesla Model 2. It will be called a Tesla though. And they've codenamed it Redwood. So we know this. It's codenamed Redwood. So long as they make it a hatchback, I think it may end up actually being the first Tesla that I actually buy. So because I'm waiting for a hatchback one, I only want a hatchback, nothing else. I was tempted with the Model 3, even especially when I've seen some of the used prices and they're getting cheaper, but I really want a hatchback is what I want. We now know that Tesla have told suppliers that they're starting production of their new EV in the middle of 2025, which like I said in the past, it is going to be somewhere in 2025 for production, but we should see it this year. That was my prediction. Probably 2 months ago, I said that, and you should be able to order one and see it and covet it this year. Maybe receive it next year if you're, hopefully. So we can go over what we know in a second, but if you're new to the channel, I am Ben Alexander, and thank you very much for tuning in. And I make EV news videos every single day, so please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And equally as important as subscribing is to press the little symbol, either a bell or an arrow, a little arrow, a little bell next to the subscribe button. Please consider turning that on, because that turns on the notifications, which is the whole point of subscribing, I think. So reports suggest that the production targets for the new budget-friendly EV are set, I would say reasonably set, but I know some people on the internet, like I would say Reuters, but I think Americans might say Reuters. 10,000 a week is what they're suggesting as soon as they get really into the thick of their production. So if you do the math, obviously that's about 500,000, just over a year. This is I think just reasonable. Some people say it's ambitious. The goal appears achievable if given the anticipated advancements in Tesla's latest generation platform, and according to one of Reuters informants, the production of this vehicle is expected to commence around June 2025. Sorry, not this year. With large-scale production likely to be ramping up in the beginning of 2026. So I think a part of this number, 10,000 a week, I think a part of that is owed to the Giga 2.0 that can use 16,000 tons of pressure or a force to produce the car parts and the castings. It's an immense piece of kit, and maybe I'll do an actual video on that. Basically, the Giga 2.0 is an upgraded version with increased capacity and efficiency. It's faster. This version is capable of producing larger single piece castings, or accommodating for different vehicle models beyond the Model Y, of course. And it's also faster and can do more complex things than the first generation casting machine. So this is all a part, I think, of Tesla's plan, isn't it, to make it possible to make a cheaper EV in big numbers. So you obviously need to have a big audience, plenty of cash behind them, and the ability to produce it. Of course, this is kind of basic stuff, isn't it? So it's been noted that the car may be a compact crossover. This was leaked in an email from a Tesla employee to a supplier, and I imagine they got the sack. No, I'm just kidding. I imagine they won't make it a hatchback. I'm saddened by that, but I really don't think they're going to make it an actual hatchback. So possibly I'll consider it, but I don't know. Something like a small 4x4, but maybe just, two-wheel drive. So I will run a poll as soon as I've put this video up. So if you're watching this video now, I'll leave it up for a handful of months. So make sure you go and look at the poll. It's in the community section on my channel, and make sure you vote. And then you will get to see, I think it's once you've voted, how many people think it's going to be a hatchback or a compact crossover. So the Model 2, codenamed Redwood, is going to be a hatchback or a compact crossover, one of those two. I really hope it's a hatchback. I don't think it's going to be. Possibly $25,000, but I suspect, as I'm sure lots of you do, it wouldn't surprise me if they stuck a few $1,000s on top of that, because then they can get take your federal grant, basically. And then we saw that with BYD in Australia, for example. They said the car was going to be such a price. I can't remember the numbers on top of my head now, but it was going to be such a price. And then a year later, when the grant was announced for people buying an EV, they basically put on top basically the same amount of money. And that's what they did. Really, right in front of you. What are you going to do when they do that sort of thing? What are we going to do? So I suspect they're going to do the same thing, and they're probably really keen to get a hold of the federal tax credit, the grant. So if we're talking about the Toyota Yaris compact crossover, which is on screen now, you may recognize it. This is the hatchback version, not the crossover yet. Look at it like this. What they do to make it a compact crossover is they grab it by the roof, and then they basically just stretch it upwards and add 100 kilos of weight, and there we have it. It's the Toyota Yaris, slightly ruined, looks less good, handles worse, costs more to drive, the brakes are worse, parts are probably slightly larger because there's an extra 100 kilos of weight. So there you have it. I'm not the biggest fan of a compact crossover. I would rather just a hatchback, and I'm not sure that I'm in the majority, sadly. So I'm sure it will be still fine with handling. Like, the Yaris is good, and I've driven compact crossovers. They can drive really, really well, but just slightly less good than before they stretched it. So please let me know your thoughts on it. Specifically, if you could answer this one question: do you mind a crossover over a hatchback? Is that a big deal? Or is that just me? I have no idea. But I definitely always like hatchbacks. They're small, they have tiny turning circles. They're less intimidating if you need to jack them up and take your wheels off. Just in every single way, they're just a much more practical, usable machine, I think, because more people can use them, cheaper to replace, cheaper to run, etc., etc. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to do the vote as well. That would be pretty cool if I could get a few people voting on there. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow in tomorrow's video about the BYD hatchback that you can soon buy, and you can already buy outside of China. And I'm not talking about the Dolphin.